When Tom told me, "I'm filing for divorce, I'll take the house and the car. I know this will be tough, but hang in there," it felt like a knife to my chest. He added, "I'm not sure how much time you have left, but I hope you can push through." But the words, though seemingly kind, were sharp and cutting. His smile at that moment hurt me more than anything. How could he do this to me? How could he leave me when I was sick? Wasn't our promise to face everything together? I couldn't hold back the tears as the shock of his words sank in. I couldn't forgive him, no matter how much pain my body was enduring. I was determined to make him feel the hurt he caused. This was the beginning of my next step, a path of revenge. My name is Anna. At 45, I've always been a dedicated housewife, caring for my family. I used to cherish every day spent with Tom. We met through a friend, and he was always the sociable one, connecting easily with anyone. When I was nervous at first, he reached out with a warm smile, and I quickly opened up. Our days together were sweet, like colorful candy, so delightful that time would slip away unnoticed. I wanted to spend every moment with him, and perhaps he felt the same. We promised to marry, and I believed our future would always be filled with love and smiles. But over time, Tom began to change. The stress of his job seemed to weigh on him. His salary wasn't high, and he hadn't pursued further qualifications, which limited his career options. I suggested a few times that he consider trying a new job, but he always hesitated, saying, "I'm good for now." Meanwhile, I worried about our future. What if we had children or I got sick and couldn't work? To ease my anxiety, I suggested he apply for a position at my company, which had an opening in administration. It wouldn't require special qualifications, just the basics. I thought it might be a good opportunity to improve his situation. His reaction was cold. "Why are you making decisions about my job without asking me? I chose this place myself. Are you saying there's something wrong with it?" I was taken aback. I had only wanted to help, but he didn't see it that way. "Just because you're my wife doesn't mean you can interfere in my career decisions," he snapped, as if I were a stranger. His words stung, and the growing distance between us was undeniable. I murmured to myself, feeling the weight of his harsh words. How had things changed so drastically between us? Tom also grew distant with my family. My mother, who is one of the kindest people I know, would often visit to check in. She would clean, cook meals, and store them in the fridge for us. It was her way of showing she cared. I appreciated everything she did, and often invited her over for dinner. But recently, Tom seemed irritated by her presence. One evening, when he came home and saw her in the living room, he snapped, "You're here again?" Both my mother and I were shocked by his remark. It made me question where our relationship was headed. My mother, ever gracious, smiled gently and said, "It's all right, Anna. If my being here makes you uncomfortable, I'll leave earlier today." Her kindness, especially after all she had done for us, broke my heart. "Tom, please think about how Mom feels," I pleaded. "She's always looking out for us. Please, show her some respect." Tears welled up in my eyes as the atmosphere in the room shifted. I remembered all the ways my mother had brightened our home and couldn't understand why Tom would speak to her that way. Tom's response was harsh. "When I come home after working all day, all I want is to relax. It's exhausting having someone else around all the time in my own house." I tried to see it from his perspective but couldn't shake the appreciation I felt for my mother. I didn't think I was wrong, but I struggled to express my feelings in a way that Tom could understand. My mother, ever understanding, reassured me, "Don't worry about it. If everyone's happy, that's all that matters," and gave me a comforting smile. Her warm words left me feeling guilty. That night, as I enjoyed the meal she had prepared, my emotions were a jumbled mess of appreciation and regret. I couldn't stop thinking about Tom and how we could fix things. But then, something else happened that would change everything. At work, I suddenly felt dizzy and fainted. My colleagues rushed me to the hospital, and everything seemed like a blur. As I waited for tests, I tried to reach Tom, but he didn't answer. The diagnosis came, cancer. Fortunately, it was caught early, and the doctor said with proper treatment, I'd be okay. But I knew cancer treatments would be grueling, and I steeled myself for the long road ahead. I told Tom about the diagnosis and my hospitalization, but his reaction was cold and indifferent. His silence stung, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. Despite this, I resolved to focus on my treatment, telling myself that moving forward was my only option. The cancer treatment was more brutal than I had imagined, and my health deteriorated quickly, forcing me to remain in bed most days. Then, one day, Tom finally showed up at the hospital, his voice casual. "How are you feeling?" he asked, as if nothing had changed. "Well, it's pretty rough," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "It might have been a bit easier if you were by my side." His lack of empathy frustrated me. Why hadn't he been there for me sooner? His support could have made all the difference during this painful time. Instead of feeling relieved that he was finally here, I only felt more isolated. As I reflected on our past, I felt increasingly resentful. Then, what he said next shocked me to my core. "I filed for divorce. Of course, I'll take the house and the car. I know it's tough, but hang in there. I don't know how much time you have left, but I hope you keep fighting." I stared at him, stunned. "Wait, are you serious? Divorce?" The words hit me like a tidal wave, and a storm of questions erupted inside me. Didn't we promise to face everything together? Hadn't we sworn to be there for each other, no matter what? His words left me feeling disconnected from him, and as I whispered to myself, "I don't need him anymore," something inside me hardened. I would move forward on my own, and he would regret underestimating me. But first, I needed to end this relationship properly. "I get it," I said, my voice calm. "I'm sorry for everything. The house, the car, whatever. If you want compensation money, I'll pay. Thanks for everything." Tom looked surprised at first, but then a smug smile crept onto his face. "I didn't expect you to accept it so easily. I thought you'd throw a tantrum. Anyway, take care of yourself, and don't bother inviting me to your funeral." As he walked out, a twisted smile spread across my face. He had no idea he was walking straight into my trap. It would be interesting to see how his life changed now. I called a colleague from my company. "Hello, long time no talk. I have a favor to ask. Can you help me with something?" After some initial surprise, he agreed. "All right, let's give it a try." I felt a surge of excitement as everything started falling into place. Imagining the look on Tom's face when he realized what was happening filled me with a strange sense of satisfaction. Even the struggle of my treatment felt a little lighter with this new motivation. A few days later, after one of my treatments, I saw that my phone had received over 200 missed calls from Tom. The thrill of knowing he was waiting for me was oddly satisfying. Once I calmed down, I called him back, and I could hear the panic in his voice. "Anna, help me. I never expected this," he pleaded. His distress made me smile inside. This was exactly what I had planned. Trying to sound concerned, I asked, "Tom, tell me what happened." He took a deep breath before answering. "My name's on the company's layoff list. I can't believe this is happening." I smirked, knowing everything was unfolding exactly as I had orchestrated. The person I had contacted was the head of sales at our company, and I had asked him to reconsider the business dealings with Tom's company. After reviewing their transaction history, he decided it was best to choose a different partner, which led to Tom's company calling me in desperation. That's when I decided to drop the bomb. "You know, there are rumors in your company about you and the new girl. Everyone likes her because she's so cheerful, and there are whispers about an affair. Is that true? I could hear the disbelief in Tom's voice. Are you serious? You can't be serious. This has to be a joke. His shock was understandable. After all, who would think an ordinary employee like me could influence his career? But then I revealed the truth. Well, actually, I said, I'm the CEO of the company. There was a long pause. Tom was speechless on the other end. It's no lie, I continued. That's how we've been living so comfortably. My annual income is around $1 million, and your regular salary wouldn't have been enough to support your shopping habits. I knew Tom had been reckless with money. The $1,400 allowance I gave him was like a second salary, but it was never enough. Tom, yesterday was payday, wasn't it? I asked, my voice dripping with mock sympathy. I've always given you extra money on payday, but that might be difficult from now on. We're not a couple anymore, and it's only natural you can't expect that monthly allowance. I paused, enjoying the silence on the other end. And by the way, be careful with the mortgage on the house. It's $2,000 a month. I know it'll be tough, but you'll need to manage it well. If you're late on a payment, you might have to leave the house. I could hear the panic in his voice as he realized what I had just said. Really? That's crazy, he repeated over and over, disbelief clear in his tone. I knew he was lost, unsure of how he would manage without me, without my financial support. It was clear to me now that his selfishness had led him to take me for granted. But now, it was time for him to face the consequences. If I were in Tom's position, I'd find it hard to imagine a brighter future. While I understood that his situation must be overwhelming and confusing, it was the direct result of his past actions and disrespect. If he had shown genuine care for me and my family, things wouldn't have turned out this way. This was the consequence of his choices. If he had truly respected us, he wouldn't be facing these troubles now. Tom was silent, perhaps at a loss for words. I felt a mixture of pity and amusement. Was this really all he had to say? Just as I was about to hang up, his voice cracked in panic. Wait, can we reconsider our relationship one more time? I know it sounds selfish, but I realize now how important you were to me. The thought of starting over with him made my heart race. After all the pain he had caused me and how he had abandoned me, the idea of going back was daunting. His next words were almost a breathless plea. I know I've been reckless lately, and I'm really sorry. I couldn't visit you in the hospital more often, but once you're better, let's go somewhere peaceful and have a relaxing time together. I want to see your smile again. His words felt nostalgic, a faint echo of the promises he made when we first got together, promises of a life filled with happiness and laughter. Back then, I was swept up by his words, diving into the relationship without thinking. But married life had proved to be difficult, especially with his reckless spending habits. Perhaps if I had understood him better, things could have turned out differently. Anna, I can't live without you. I want to be by your side and face life's challenges together. Can we start fresh, just one more time? His voice held sadness, desperation. Despite the emotion, it was hard to trust him after everything that had happened. Stop it. We're done. I've chosen a new path, and I can't go back, I said firmly. There was a trace of sorrow in his voice, but I could sense his desire for reconciliation. Please let me say one last thing. I truly loved you, Anna. If you ever change your mind, I'll be here. I could have been swayed by his words, but I had made up my mind. Our relationship was over. I would not be influenced by sweet talk anymore. Enough. You have another girlfriend, don't you? Maybe you should focus on her, I said, cutting him off. I knew about his new relationship. Thanks to his boss, his declarations of love now felt hollow. He would say whatever was convenient to get what he wanted. It was frustrating that he only reached out when he needed something, turning away when things got tough. We can't be together anymore. Spend time with her and forget about me. I'll be reaching out through my lawyer if needed. Take care of yourself, Tom. His plea seemed sincere, but I knew letting him go would probably make his life more difficult. That was his choice. I had my own life to move forward with, and I wanted him to stand on his own 2 feet. I hung up and set my phone to block any further contact from him. According to my lawyer, Tom continued trying to reach me, but my decision was firm. My lawyer respected my wishes and didn't provide any details about me to Tom. Unexpectedly, my lawyer suggested pursuing damages. Initially, I hadn't considered it, but it seemed like a way to seek compensation. I knew Tom and his new partner weren't wealthy, and there were rumors about his serious debts. When I investigated his new partner, I learned she had fled due to financial issues. I contacted her family, and they were furious, putting pressure on her to work hard at home. Actions always have consequences, and it seemed they were now facing theirs. I had overcome cancer and made a full recovery, even surprising the doctors with my speedy healing. Returning to the office, I found a letter on my desk from the supportive sales manager. His heartwarming words touched me deeply. When colleagues heard I was single again, some kindly offered to set me up. But after my past marriage, I wanted to focus on myself for now, cherishing my time and healing.